Hi, it's Sean O'Shea with Global News. Leader, I'm just wondering, I don't think there was an admission of liability on the price fixing. It's a cash payout, basically, and it took almost a decade to work its way through. Does this just become a cost of doing business for grocery store chains like these if eventually you're going to have to pay, but along the way, you can make more money than otherwise you would have?
Absolutely, and that's the problem. What it's become is the penalties are so weak that these large corporations know they can just rip off people, and the small fines they have to pay, especially when they're stretched out over a long time, just the cost of doing business. That's why we're saying we've got to change the rules. The rules have been written by liberals and conservatives, by Justin Trudeau and Pierre Poilievre and their parties. And those rules allow for these rich corporations to rip you off. Like, this is clear. There was this is not this is something we know. I guarantee that we know that they actually engaged in something that's against the law. They broke the law. And in this case, crime pays. It pays for these corporations to break the law because they were able to make massive amounts of profits. Like I mentioned, $5 billion collectively. And what was the penalty for that? Well, the penalty through the laws written by the government were very minor. The biggest company got only $50 million in fines. Like I said, 5 cents compared to ripping off people to the tune of $55, $50. That is outrageous. And the fact that people have to go to court to get the settlement is also outrageous. We shouldn't rely on citizens having to go to court to fight for justice. That is wrong. And because it's taken so long, not an admission of guilt like you mentioned, this again shows that crime pays. Crime pays for corporations like Loblaws. They can get away with it. But we can change that. That's what I'm talking about. We can change that by putting in place severe sanctions. One of the examples I mentioned is, what if the penalty, if you made $5 billion, what if the penalties, like we proposed in a law that I put forward in Parliament, was $15 billion in fines? Then no corporation would dare rip off Canadians if they were facing that level of jeopardy to lose $15 billion. Then we're talking about a severe deterrence that would stop these companies from ripping people off. But that's what I'm talking about when I say, let's change the rules. Let's make it so that crime doesn't pay. Let's make it so these corporations can't rip off Canadians. That's what I want to change when I talk about changing the rules.
A brief follow-up, please. What's a consumer to do? You were in the grocery store just now. You brought back the small basket of goods, whether it's the cost of food that way or whether it's the excessive price of the bread. I mean, people have to eat. People have to feed their families. What's a consumer to do if the bread was too expensive? Eat less, shop somewhere else? What's the solution?
Well, this is a really important question. If we were talking about the price of shoes, people could put off the price of buying shoes. If there was a big increase and shoe companies were gouging us, people could put off buying shoes. You could say, you know what, my shoes are a bit worn out. Maybe I can go an extra year with them. But with groceries, you can't do that. There's no luxury of saying, I'm going to put off buying groceries. People have to eat. And that's why I'm saying it shouldn't be on consumers. I can't expect a consumer to go up against a billion dollar corporation. We can't expect people to go up against, really, there's just 5 major corporations that own the majority of grocery stores you go to. We're talking about Loblaws, Sobeys, Metro, Walmart, and Costco. That's really it for most Canadians. I can't expect an everyday family to be able to do something about that. How are they going to fight back against these large corporations? I mean, luckily, some people got together and did a class action, but that's not the solution here. So that's what we're saying. That is our job. Government should be defending people against corporations ripping them off. We need to have stronger rules to protect consumers, not the profits of these corporations. And really, Justin Trudeau and Pierre Poilievre, that's what they've been doing for the past number of years. They've allowed these corporations to rip you off, and we're seeing the results. Record high grocery prices. That's what I want to change. People cannot do this on their own. They need to elect governments that are going to stand up for them. You Democrats, me and Norm, we're going to fight for you. We're going to take on these large corporations and make sure they stop ripping you off.